Right, so I enjoyed the first talk of the day. Beyond the exchange, CASPs, Web3, and the next regulatory frontier. We have Roy van Krimpen, also a sponsor, so thank you very much, guys, for your support. General Manager, Western Europe from OKX. And then Marco Tullio Giordano, our tech lawyer from 42 Law Firm. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandro. Hi, everyone. Welcome in Milan. It's a pleasure to see so many people here. Yes, it's a quite curious, quite sadistic to start with a lawyer, but I promise I will not annoy you with legal stuff. We decided to have a fireside chat, so a very informal chat with Roy van Krimpen, General Manager Western Europe for one of the most well-known and bigger exchange all around the world. We will try to discuss the developing of this ecosystem and the direction it is taking with exchanges changing their way, their business and their way to approach user of the Web3, maybe becoming a sort of infrastructure layer for Web3. But before that, let me introduce myself. Probably you saw me in the past year at the community events here in Milan of Ethereum Italian community. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but I am quite oriented to technology. I have been a criminal lawyer for a lot of years. Assisting platform in the managing liaison with law enforcement, assisting a user in case of financial fraud, of hacking, of other crimes. Then I start to get involved in a regulatory framework, and it seems a long time is passed because, Roy, you have to know, the first time Alessandro and the other guys told before, the first time here in Milan there was Spaghetti, the first event, and we were speaking about must we regulate the crypto environment, or what's the liability for developers in this environment. Now we have a point very, very well known, that is, yes, the regulation is arrived. But before that, I would like to know, can you introduce yourself? Because it's quite difficult for me. I read a lot, but you are growing so fast and moving so fast that it's difficult to identify just one pattern. So,
no, appreciate it. Thanks for having me here today. I'm working at OKX indeed to lead the Western European market. And one of the countries within that market is Italy. I've been working in the crypto space for over 5 years now professionally, but I started as a retail trader. That was my first interest and first entrance into the crypto space. Back in the time, it indeed was all about growth and innovation. So even in companies like OKX, we've seen that transition from just developing new products, and we still continue to do that. But we made a 180 degrees pivot towards focusing on regulation, compliance, regulatory frameworks, and new licenses. This is an ever-evolving space, as we've seen with even a consultation being issued yesterday. Yeah. So it continues to develop. There are multiple frameworks applicable, so I'm happy to talk about that and our evolution in the European market as well.
You said well, it's a perfect timing to speak about this topic, because yesterday the European Commission issued a consultation open until the end of August. Consultation directed, focused both to consumer, so people, users, but also to stakeholders, institutional stakeholders like CASP. The consultation is issued in order to understand if it's time to review, integrate, develop the framework around MiCA. And this is my first question. so fast. we waited 4 years for the MiCA regulation, and then after just 1 year, just after the grandfathering period, Europe is considering to change this regulation. This could be understood a little bit frustrating for who, like OKX, worked a lot in the last 2 years. I saw you were one of the first platform in Europe gaining the pre-authorization, then the license, then the passporting. Do you think it is a destination, the authorization MiCA, or it is just a first step in order to gain the full stack all over this environment?
Well, looking at different frameworks and rulebooks, they have been evolving as well. As new innovation is being launched and adopted by consumers, politicians and policymakers will take that in consideration and update their frameworks. So even though that OKX has been a global company with more than 120 million users globally, we still wanted to make sure that we stayed conservative in Europe before we had the MiCA license. Now, this MiCA license has been obtained just over 1 year ago. There is this transitional period of 1.5 years for crypto exchanges to get this MiCA license. This period is almost about to end. So the 1st of July will be the deadline for all European countries within the EEA to have licensed crypto exchanges. This is very important to understand that the transitional period is only about to end 1st of July. But indeed, Marco, as you say, they are already thinking about the next framework, MiCA 2.0. But what we think is really important is to make sure that we have battle tested this existing framework as well. We can continue to develop and evolve, but MiCA and complying with that and getting that license is not just submitting some papers and information. You need to set up your compliance department, risk department, segregate client assets, comply with GDPR, DAC 8, and all other type of frameworks that indirectly relate to being a licensed, MiCA licensed CUSP. Now, that's very important to understand because right now there are still many active exchanges in the European region that are accessible for European consumers that do not have that license, they do not have that overhead of complying with these rule sets. Even GDPR, for example, safely storing client data within the European Union. All those, what it sounds individually, minor requirements add up. We already have more than 200 people working from Europe just to maintain our business, make sure that we have sufficient compliance personnel, that we do the KYC checks that are mandated. Meanwhile, what we still see is that a huge chunk of European volume goes to offshore. So our preference is make sure that we adopt the MiCA regulation, that we create an equal level playing field, and then we can innovate and improve from that standpoint. I think that's very important to understand. We can improve the rules for those few licensed exchanges right now, or you can make sure that the bulk of volume that still leaves the European Union also complies with that same standard, and then optimize from there. So we welcome the evolving regulation, but we do think it needs to be sequential to creating an equal level playing field.
You touched an important point, no? The arbitrage possible among regulated player or player who decided to be regulated to follow the pattern set by MiCA and free agents that can decide to not follow the rules. You were among the first movers. How difficult was to choose a jurisdiction, set up business, interact with a regulator, with a financial regulator, and to obtain first, so without pattern, without the experience who come before you, how much was difficult to obtain the license?
Yes, so OKX has been purposely conservative before receiving the authorization to actively solicit clients in Europe, because that's the main crucial point. If you have a reverse solicitation strategy, you may say that you're not actively offering services in Europe. So what we've done is get a jurisdiction or find a jurisdiction that allow us speed to market first and then grow from there. Within MiCA, there were already a few countries that closely aligned with the requirements. Those countries were Liechtenstein, Malta, and France. As OKX, we were registered before the MiCA regime was live in the Netherlands, registered in France, and licensed in Malta. In Malta, we had this longest lasting relationship with the regulator, and we opted also, because our biggest office was there, for that jurisdiction. So we wanted to make sure that it was one of the 3 jurisdictions where we had a relation with the regulator, and that also allows a swift approval, because the previous rule set already closely aligned with the MiCA rules. That made it a bit easier to indeed be one of the first in Europe to have that.
Yeah, you have to know that in Italy we are a little bit behind, because even if we implemented MiCA at the beginning, and we set 12 months or maybe 18 months of grandfathering period, the problem here was that the president of our financial authority, very well known, very experienced, almost 90 years old, declared a sort of consciousness objection. So he stated, I will not sign any kind of MiCA license during my mandate. At least we changed all the people in the financial authority this spring, so we are going to have our first licenses, but a lot of players flew away and decide. It was different in Malta. Did you find the right person to speak with? They were aggressive. They were open. How was the path to the licensing?
Yes, very early on, Malta sparked a lot of interest as they tried to position themselves as the blockchain island. While they sort of moved away from that, they still want to support innovation, but the rules is a regulation. There are 2 different types of rule sets that can be deployed in the European Union. It's either a directive, like MiFID, the D stands for Directive, Markets in Financial Instrument Directive, or a regulation. As an example, MiCA is written with an R for regulation, Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation. The difference between the 2 is the local regulators, the NCAs, with the directive, can choose to change the rules to their liking. That results in a lot of regulatory arbitrage. So you can choose where you get the license, because in one regulator might permit you to do something, and the other regulator might not permit you to do that same thing. This doesn't exist in MiCA. In MiCA, because it's a regulation, the same rules need to be adapted by all of the NCAs that participate in it. Right? So there's no regulatory arbitrage, but you still try to see, okay, which regulator is approachable, has enough resource to support us, and is willing to sign anything as long as it complies with the rules, right? So if the regulator would have taken a stance that they are not signing or issuing any license, that indeed would eliminate that country as a suitable place to set up your headquarters for the European region. So I think that you will be pushing out a lot of commercial activity and innovation from your market with such a stance.
Even because the MiCA license is just the first step, but all over Europe, CASP are moving fast to obtain, for example, a PSP license. I know that you follow this path. How difficult was to harmonize regulation, also to are able to provide services integrated. No? For example, it is a big topic, the harmonization between the payment services regulation and the crypto asset regulation.
Yes, exactly. So by now we have 3 different licenses already in Europe. We have the MiCA license, that's the crypto license that most of you are familiar with. But what they also said last year, and that is into effect since this year, is that stablecoins can be considered as cash. There are so many economical similarities between a stablecoin, in Europe referred to as an EMT, an e-money token, and actual cash, so euro or any other fiat currency. So the result of that was that they said, in order to move stablecoins, you need to comply with the same rules as moving, transferring cash. So that also resulted into another requirement. You operate as a crypto exchange with your first license. Now you need to get at least a second license, which is a PI, payment institution license, or an EMI license.
Just to make them understand well, if you want to buy stuff on Amazon paying with stablecoin, and your stablecoin are deposited, custodied, hosted on the wallet, the CASP must have a license in order to process your payment request.
Exactly. So that adds a new license to the requirements and licensing set that you need in order to just receive stablecoins, move them between your clients, and allow the purchase and sale of crypto with stablecoins, which is of course essential for the crypto industry.
And then there is a third license Roy was mentioning before, because you don't stop to crypto assets, but you want to explore also the financial products, no?
Mm-hmm. Ironically, MiFID, the directive to allow derivative trading, existed even before the MiCA license. But in the crypto industry, it's quite common to get the MiCA license first to allow you to operate your crypto business to begin with. But if you want to allow trading with leverage, derivatives, futures, options, etc., you would need a different license. It is not seen as a crypto activity. What the regulators are saying is this is a financial instrument. So it doesn't matter if you're trading Bitcoin or gold or oil in a derivative contract, it remains a contract. And that is a financial instrument, and therefore it touches MiFID. So we also obtained a MiFID license, and we are one of the first to therefore offer also crypto derivatives in a regulated way in Europe. We launched this about a month ago under the name XPERPs. So these are long-dated expiry futures with a 5-year settlement period so that clients can trade in and out during those 5 years up until settlement. In order to keep the price stable, we added the funding rate mechanism that people are used to in the perpetual contracts. So combining the two, that's the XPERPs that we've launched. It's quite successful, and we really see that there's a huge demand for regulated derivatives.
Yeah. We can say it is a superior level of providing services, not the first services provided by the first exchanges 10 years ago. But I did not follow the promise I did, and we talk about regulation for too long. So changing topic. You are not, OKX is not probably the traditional exchange in my mind, because I saw and I used you issued also a no custodial wallet, integration with DeFi, DEX routing, and other Web3 services. My question is why, before all, and if this is a transition, a sort of evolution for Casper into something new.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. OKX is not just a crypto exchange. We see ourselves as a technology provider. So we are clearly a product-led organization with a huge part of our organization that works on product engineering and product development. From the start, we didn't even only offer this centralized exchange, but we also had different avenues in product innovations. We have OK Link as a data platform, OK Ventures as our VC arm, and then indeed the OKX wallet that is quite popular as well. The difference between the OKX wallet and the OKX regular app is that in OKX, as a crypto exchange, we custody the client's assets. We do that in line with the MiCA and the regulation requirements that we have here, but the clients also have a choice to opt for a non-custodial solution. This means that you own your own keys, you're fully in control. There's no way that we as an organization can touch your assets. So they often say, not your keys, not your crypto. Well, this definitely applies to that. You will be the owner of the keys. You will have full custody of the crypto. And this comes with certain advantages for crypto traders or investors, but also a few disadvantages. The advantage clearly is that if any company goes bankrupt or loses access or has a security breach, well, then it doesn't impact you because you are directly the owner on-chain of your crypto. On the other side, you are also directly responsible for safekeeping your private keys. And that can be a challenge. Up until this year, we still see Bitcoin core developers, right? The ones that definitely have a lot of knowledge about safekeeping and developing on-chain, they still sometimes lose access to their private keys. So make sure to understand that technology properly before you engage with it. I often wouldn't recommend someone new into crypto to immediately use a self-custody wallet and store your own keys. Because what happens if you lose that password, or you get exploited, or your computer is compromised, then you will have no chance in recovering your own crypto on-chain. Whereas if you KYC with us, you proved your identity, you lose your passwords, you can come back and call our customer support. You tell them, hey, this is me, I prove it with my identity here, I lost access, can you verify my identity, and we can provide you access to your crypto afterwards again. So there are some advantages, but also disadvantages to that technology.
It is a completely brand new bunch of services, and the risk is to be considered as liable for everything happen during the use of these services. Do you notice your client, your user, that they must be aware they are the owners of the asset, the only owners of the key, or do you help them in case of problems? How do you manage these two different ways to provide services?
Yeah, so before opening your self-custody wallet, we will give you clear guidance and warnings that you're the owner of your wallet and your private keys. And there's no way to redeem that with us. Even if we would try, we are technically not capable in doing so. It's impossible. So we make that very clear in the onboarding flow. But there's a lot of responsibility because you're the owner of that on the clients themselves as well. And then what we're trying to do is, sure, we try to help people out. We have a customer support center dedicated to wallet technologies. But it's more about clarifying and providing additional guidance. We also try to provide additional education. Because on our exchange, we have a listing committee and a due diligence process before making certain currencies available. When you're talking about the DeFi realm, everything is available. All currencies are immediately available if they are on the chain and if the chain is integrated into the wallet. So you can choose between tens of millions of different currencies, including the fake ones. There are many currencies called Bitcoin, which are not actually on the Bitcoin network. We provide that education. If we spot that with our programs, our due diligence on-chain, we even give warnings there to protect consumers. But it's impossible for us to tell them, hey, you cannot purchase it, because it's out of our control in the DeFi realm.
And as a DPO, you must know I am a data protection officer. So under a privacy perspective, even if you are not involved in providing services, Web3 services, the connection between the software you provide to user and the use they do about with these services probably allow you to see something about this user, like the usage, the solving the pseudonymization between the name of the user and the wallet. How do you manage this sensitive aspect?
Yeah, so there are two parts in this. One is the connection with the centralized exchange. The centralized exchange where you are KYC'd, and there the requirement is to comply with something called the travel rule. The travel rule is a requirement for the cusp to understand where the crypto is coming from and where it's going as well. We verify that with a Satoshi test. A Satoshi test is when you deposit a little bit of crypto just to prove that you have ownership or control over that external address.
Like when you open a new credit card and they ask to deposit something and then they give you back.
Exactly, that's exactly the same, but then happening on-chain. And then, of course, internally we can map that information knowing that, oh, this wallet belongs to that person. But that's not information that is publicly available. Only the things on the DeFi realm, on-chain, that is publicly available, but not to us. Your KYC data is not visible there, but all the transactions can be monitored, going between self-custody wallets into different DEX aggregators, going to other participants in that DEX, for example. Now, there are multiple data vendors and companies that work full-time to monitor that behavior, to identify frauds, scams, and then warn people like OKX not to engage with certain wallets, so we can rightfully freeze fraudulent transactions, for example. like Chainalysis, Elliptic, CipherTrace. Those are big companies that look into on-chain data to secure the space, but also provide intel, not just to the cusp, but also to law enforcement, for example.
Yes, and this brings me to ask also your relationship as a platform with law enforcement agencies all over Europe. I worked a lot with Web2 platform providing services and liaising with law enforcement, and I know that for a platform is quite difficult, even because it's not a productive task you do. It's an obligation, it's mandatory, but you not gain profit or you not gain a reputation. Maybe also you lose reputation if you work so much with law enforcement. How much is difficult to discuss with law enforcement all around Europe on this specific topic and specific argument? Very difficult also to understand for who is not skilled in the Web3 ecosystem.
Yes, we think that there is a huge focus on compliance and always about getting more information from the general public in order to make sure that they are not doing something wrong, that they don't engage with illicit wallets, for example. That's why you need to KYC in the first place. That's why you need to provide a proof of address and more information. This indeed is also a privacy concern that always conflicts with this compliance concern. My personal view is that we should focus also a lot on indeed law enforcement and actually tackling the bad actors in this industry. What we notice there is that we are very willing to cooperate and create a safe space. Scams don't happen in crypto only. It is a broad global concern for any financial service provider, right? So we want to secure the space and help on developing a safe environment. So we are very willing to work with law enforcement. Sometimes what we perceive is that the resources on that end to really go after the smaller scammers is limited. So we are welcoming those requests for information so we can together keep the space safe. Publicly, OKX has been acknowledged for that, for working together on certain investigations with ZechXBT, for example. This famous, I would say, crypto Twitter investigator that is also followed by huge industry leaders in the market. So we definitely open and welcome those.
Last year, my presentation here at Milano was about on-chain clarity, and so community bounty, community intelligence, and so on. I am curious, how many requests do you receive, and what kind of requests? Because in my opinion, one of the risks is to be considered a sort of watchdog of the whole environment. Maybe agencies can ask you about activity taken by users on the Web3 side, and you are not the watchdog on what they do on the free environment. So it's if you can tell us, if you can.
Yeah, what I can share about that is that we would welcome even more requests, as long as there is something that is being done with that information. We even proactively reach out to law enforcement when we feel the need to do that. We also are willing to cooperate on certain parts, but it needs to be lawful, right? So we are not willing to just share information, but if there's a confirmed illicit action, we are more than happy to cooperate. If it's a lawful request from any agency, we also would be willing to cooperate there. So I think it's an interesting point, but I don't think it will touch, you know, the broad consumers. As I mentioned, the resources on enforcement is quite limited. So it's not that there's a bulk of hundreds of thousands or even many thousands of these requests. It's rather a handful that require immediate attention, but we would like to see more of that, as long as it doesn't touch the privacy of the general public.
Interesting, and this is one of the aspects we will keep focus on during the evolution of your services. So we came at the last part of this chat. How do you see your platform, your activity, your services in 5 years and in 10 years? What do you think you will become in the future?
Yeah, so we definitely position ourselves for the longer term. That has been seen with our conservative marketing and growth approach in Europe before we had the right license. That is also noted when you see that we already have the 3 licenses to operate and just now ramp up our growth in Europe as well. These are the MiCA license for crypto, PI license to move stablecoins, MiFID license to offer regulated derivatives. Now, we just launched our first derivative products named the Xperps. But we are definitely looking at broadening the product offering that we have, as long as we have the proper license in place for it as well. We try to give people access to more and more innovation and also contribute to that innovation. So you can definitely expect more products from OKX, more product innovation, and a continuous focus on being a product-led organization that really stands out on technology. That's why our company has more than 5,000 employees, out of which 1,800 are product managers and engineers. Comparing that to even other innovative companies, this is a huge chunk. The ratio is very, very big on the product and engineering side. We continue to expand on that. We also implement different ways of working with AI to speed up our processes, strength test our setup, and further provide innovation and technology to people.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk about brand new services. I can expect, for example, services in the identity management with the wallet. The wallet could be considered also a sort of ID card of the users. And in my opinion, protocols, smart contract already allow to provide new services apart from the Web2 platform. No? Maybe people can connect to your services just when they need to connect and not rely on your custody or your services. And probably the future will bring us in this direction. But don't you think it's a win-win game? Because less custody, less regulated services bring you to more freedom to, yes, monitor, help user, advise user, but let them choose what they want to do over the net.
We do think it's an interesting development, but the usability needs to be at par with centralized services. Right? Losing private keys is a huge concern, but also connecting or creating your first DeFi wallet. Apart from that, if you want to make your first transaction, you would today still prefer often a centralized exchange to purchase your first crypto and then withdraw it on-chain. So our main priority is focusing on creating the best experience for traders in Europe, expand on that. We're still one of the few, very few crypto companies with a MiFID license that allows a full new set of derivative products. And the second thing that is our priority is ensuring that this convergence between TradFi and crypto continues to take place. As an example, we launched our OKX card, where it is possible to spend your crypto with any merchant that accepts MasterCard. As another example, we see a trend towards RWAs, real-world assets, and we also dip our toes in multiple occasions into TradFi. A strategic partnership has been launched last year with Standard Chartered Bank for Standard Chartered Bank custody, but trading access on OKX. And even this year, there was an announcement that ICE, the mothership behind the New York Stock Exchange, strategically invested in OKX with a minority share and took one of the board seats globally. This clearly indicates the traditional finance interest in crypto and the crypto market being ready to cooperate with that market as well. So we want to continue to facilitate the convergence between the two to create this new financial system that we are aiming to do.
I saw you started to provide through the wallet, so the no custodial part of your services, also connection to brand new and very discussed service like prediction market, lending, staking, and so on. What's your position about the provision of these services by CASP, but through a decentralized wallet?
For launching new products into the market, step number one for us is seeing if there's a regulatory framework that aligns with offering these products. So we want to get the license, the permission to offer something first before we develop that as a product and launch that here in the European region. So I think that the regulatory availability of products is a huge determinant if we are going to proceed with something and offer that to the wider European public. So for that reason, indeed, trading is a first thing that we want to expand on. Then the conversions is something that we want to look into as well. And then in the meantime, we talk with policymakers, politicians, and the regulatory, the NCAs, to see what else can be offered. But this is a very interesting
Yeah,
chat.
absolutely. We will see what will happen after this consultation. I would like to open the discussion also to the audience, the public. It's a fireside chat, so if someone want to set a question or a suggestion, we are here for you. Any question? Yes.
If there is time, one or two questions.
Yeah. Alessandro, can you help?
Yeah.
I can speak loud.
Yeah.
No, 1 second.
Okay, so my question will probably touch a lot of parts that you both talked about. Most importantly, the fact that you first expanded in France, among other countries, okay, and how you treat privacy. So the point is, I see like an opportunity in the market, especially regarding the fact that when a person wants to exit, okay, the market and simply either take profits or take the cryptos, etc.
Buy the Lambo.
Exactly. And the point is that what do you think about like possible partnerships between checks, okay, and mixers? I mean, the point is that detaching your identity from your funds today is seen as only a way to, mainly, a way to launder money. What instead about something that actually helps people in detaching identity from funds when they want to exit? I mean, probably something not exploited, and you know, it just happened in France that someone sold the identity of everyone, I mean, to people, and so they started like...
even because, as I told, the checks is the only one knowing the identity of a decentralized users.
Exactly. So the point is that I see like something not exploited today in this part. I mean, from this side of the market, of a possible cooperation between checks and mixers, but not from laundering perspective. I mean, what do you think about this?
What we think is to ensure that we can stay in the market, not just for 10 years, but 20 and 30 years, we need to look at the regulatory framework and comply by that. But we, as one of the industry leaders, definitely provide our insights and our vision between regulating the market and protecting consumers. And one of the ways to protect consumers is to protect your identity. And you see more and more incidents happening because of either data being sold, hacked, or being publicly available. So we do think there needs to be a fair balance, and we do advocate for the protection of client privacy. But we leave it up to then the policy. We can opine on that, we share that as our view, and then we will comply with the regulation that the policymakers set out.
Yeah, and if I can add just a legal bit, is an interesting topic, quite hard to solve, because, for example, Roy was saying before, travel rule ask to know, to manage the identity of the requester, the sending and the receiving money. And for example, if funds come from a mixer, it is a risk indicator for the platform, and they have to decide if accept that deposit or not, because it's coming from a mixer. So it's one of the topic to solve with the new regulation. Okay, our time is quite finished. No problem at all. Enjoy these 2 days, enjoy the event, and thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.